understand the cousin-like relationship as it was described between APRA and ASIC. Ms Cole used the words that you have a highly coordinated response to the First Guardian Shield disaster. I mean, I'm so glad that some people have recovered some of their money, but the reality is there are, broken hearts. Families perhaps break up over the sorts of issues that they're confronting right now, having lost all of their retirement funds. So Diversa looks like they've been pretty bad for some period of time and have come to the attention of both APRA and ASIC. So when the cousins get together, I want to understand how you might talk about a recalcitrant like Diversa and what processes are in place to make sure that everybody's aware of who the baddies are.
Well, perhaps, Senator, thank you for the question. I can start, and perhaps Commissioner Constant might add anything she wants to, given she's the expert on super. In relation to Diversa, I heard the evidence earlier in the evening that you referred to a court case ASIC had taken in 2021, which we unfortunately lost in 2023, but we certainly had concerns about the conduct that were the subject of those proceedings, but obviously respect the decision of the court and where it ended up. In relation to Diversa's involvement as a trustee in relation to the First Guardian Master Fund, obviously we have significant concerns about Diversa in that regard, and as I mentioned in my evidence earlier, we have an active investigation underway in relation to what we consider to be failures by Diversa in relation to the First Guardian Master Fund. In terms of our engagement with APRA, Senator, there is no doubt that APRA and ASIC liaise about a range of issues, including particular entities, on an extremely regular basis at all levels across both agencies. So the APRA members and the ASIC commissioners meet frequently. We have operational working groups. We have a enforcement standing committee that Deputy Chair Cole from APRA and I sit on, and co-chair that meets 3 or 4 times a year from memory. We have operational working groups at the team level. So I'd only support Deputy Chair Cole's evidence that we work extremely closely, both sort of broadly across the two agencies, but also in relation to sharing information to the extent that both of our statutory obligations and confidentiality requirements allow in relation to particular entities. Diversa is obviously the subject of conversation at the moment.
Not just at the moment, though. I mean, it sounds like there's a fair degree of formal and informal.
Indeed, there is.
Communications that go on a regular basis. So would it be fair to say that every week perhaps, or every couple of weeks, certainly formally every quarter, you're meeting?
I would say almost every day,
right.
Senator, there would be interactions between Commissioner Constant, Commissioner O'Rourke, Commissioner Kirkland, whether it be insurance, on banking, on superannuation, on enforcement. There are a range of those standing committees that involve the members of APRA and the commissioners of ASIC, and then we're on the phone sharing information on a very regular basis.
So that confirms for me that it's unfathomable that there wasn't a conversation or many conversations about, hey, this Diversa, like I can just imagine walking into a meeting going, God, we're doing this work on Diversa. Have you heard about what's going on there? Because that is the nature of casual conversations, phone calls coming backwards and forwards, in addition to the formal matters that you're discussing. That's how we work together. We observe and we talk about things. Is it possible that APRA were not aware of what you were doing with Diversa?
Look, I'd have to let APRA give their own evidence on that, obviously, Senator. So in relation to the court proceedings that ASIC had in court that I think ran from 2021 through to 2023, yes, I'm sure that those particular matters that we were concerned about would have been the subject of discussion at our Enforcement Standing Committee, as one of a number of agenda items. But in terms of discussions about that particular entity, sort of more broadly, whether formal or informal, I'd need to see if I've got any information about that, Senator.
Thank you. I'd appreciate if you could take it on notice.
And just to check that you're asking particularly in relation to Diversa, the entity?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because they were known to APRA. APRA had already sanctioned them by instituting an additional licence condition on them in early 2023. So from January 2023, they'd actually taken action. You were already onto it. So when we look at the timeline of the necessary sequencing of APRA action, ASIC action, there's kind of a bit of a staggered. I can't believe it's possible that there wasn't cross-conversation given the level of communication that you said you operate under. I also want to note that I did use your timeline as an instructive tool to hopefully give APRA the hint that we might need to get some information from them. And I would appreciate any support you could give to your cousin to help them get on board and give us information at the level that you have provided from ASIC with regard to Diversa. If I can just ask one question, you probably need to take this on notice. Yes. APRA had a lot to say about Macquarie, and when it all, came to a fever pitch that they got involved with Macquarie. I don't understand why they weren't equally involved with Netwealth, Diversa and Equity. I didn't get a sense of their engagement with that. Could you help me understand that? Has there been a formal agreement between APRA and ASIC with regard to who's going to do any of the work with regard to Netwealth, Diversa and Equity, or are APRA entitled to do their own inquiries and representations around those entities?
Well, again, Senator, why don't I start and others can jump in. I mean, I think it's fair to say, and I don't want to give evidence on behalf of APRA, but APRA obviously have a role in relation to a range of the entities that they prudentially supervise.
Yes.
And those entities that you have outlined will fall within that prudential remit. We have an overlapping jurisdiction in some ways, if you like, because we're the conduct regulator and we look at in particular in relation to superannuation, we are very concerned about potential investor losses. So it's not uncommon for ASIC to be looking at one suite of issues in relation to a particular entity, and that APRA has its own considerations going, through their different lens simultaneously. What we try to do, obviously, is to make sure that we do that as efficiently as we can, try to minimise regulatory burden on some of those entities and the like. So it's entirely possible for us to be doing our work and APRA to be doing their work. And as I said in my earlier evidence, that we communicate about that and liaise about what it is that we are doing. And that's very much what the entities that we both regulate expect of us.
Thank you. Did you want to add anything, Ms Constant?
Only to add add support to Deputy Chair Court's remarks about the level of engagement, and on the regulatory and supervisory side, just as the Deputy Chair has said, it would be inappropriate for me to give evidence for APRA, but refer, for example, to the comments they made about the platform operator review that they have underway and the investment governance review that they have underway in that regard. And of course, when they seek and look for support from the regulatory and supervisory teams within ASIC that work within superannuation, of course, all support given and cooperation willingly provided.
So one of the issues you might want to have a think about is, for me, would be how much money has disappeared into individuals' pockets. What's the quantum of money with regard to Diversa? How much of the trustees received themselves? Because I know that APRA said that they're looking into expenditure, but there's expenditure and expenditure. Like when you're paying yourself in people's retirement funds for your own pleasure and joy, buying cars and things like that, that's truly extraordinary. I would hope that that's something that APRA is absolutely looking at.
So, Senator, I'll give you my the information I've got in front of me at the moment, which may not be to the detail that your question seeks, but in relation to Diversa, we know that the overall amount invested through the Diversa platform is in the order of $305 million. Now, we also know that a percentage of monies that were invested through both Shield and First Guardian made their way to a number of entities and individuals, including, and I think we've talked before about all of the people in the chain of this misconduct, and that everyone was taking a clip along the way. So the advisors got a lot of money, the lead generators got a lot of money, and a lot of individuals involved got a lot of money, but I don't have the exact breakdown of those. I suspect that going right down to the individual level, Senator, may be more information than we perhaps have in any definitive way, but we can certainly find out as best we can.
If you could provide on notice as much detail as you can there, and
Yes.
and I'm sure that there'll be some questions to APRA about what they're doing about those monies, where they're going. How could that happen without them noticing? That's the kind of question I want to ask them. So I need the information if possible. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. And with that, we have concluded with APRA.